Welcome to my channel. This is a follow-up video on the Karen Reed case from my previous video, and I just wanted to try to make it more clear that John O'Keefe was found next to the fire hydrant, and the most probable cause for his injuries are the fire hydrant and the flag for his arm. In this clip, you can see the corners of the flag and the end of the support rod match the injuries on the upper arm. Just below the elbow, we can see an injury that corresponds with the bolt on top of the fire hydrant. This is Carrie Roberts. We know it's Carrie Roberts because she said she went over to John O'Keefe's head, and we know because she has the fur around her hood, and she stipulated that Karen Reed was lying on John O'Keefe, pulled his shirt up and lay down. So this is just to help you visualize. I realize it's not that well done. I'm not an artist, but keep this in mind. I should have drew it at the exact angle. This is parallel to the street versus looking this way. But it still gives you an idea of what you're seeing.
And she lifted up his shirt and started to lay on him. I ran over and I dug his head out of the snow.
In this short clip, I will indicate the position of the fire hydrant in each person. Here's the fire hydrant. Officer John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, and Carrie Roberts.
Females waving and Mr. O'Keefe on the ground.
I'm going to play the clip of Carrie Roberts waving one more time because it's very important to understand that you can visibly see that these are the people that she's describing. You see the motion of the wave.
Females waving and Mr. O'Keefe on the ground. Now, from this video, do you see where in relation to your vehicle, Mr. O'Keefe, where you found Mr. O'Keefe?
With the pointer?
In this next clip, we're going to see Officer Seraph testifying about his dash cam video as he approaches the women by the fire hydrant.
And if you could, just using that laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to number one, where the vehicle is that you observed in front of you, and then number two, where you observed the three females and Mr. O'Keefe on the ground.
So here's the vehicle right there, and the females are right there.
Okay, so now, Ms. Gilman, if you wouldn't mind just running this straight through until about 7.5 minutes.
In the final clip of Officer Seraph's dash cam footage, we have Jennifer McCabe.
You see that area now?
Yes.
Go ahead using the laser pointer, just direct the jury's attention where Ms. Gilman, if you could play this for
Notice how the prosecutor stopped the video on a frame that had a much clearer view of the fire hydrant with Carrie Roberts, but with Officer Seraph and Jen McCabe, the floodlight made it difficult to see the fire hydrant.
So your memory is to the left of the house near a fire hydrant, is that correct?
Yes.
In this clip, you can see the pattern in the snow next to the fire hydrant that matches the dash camera. Also in the clip are the footprints going to and from. I have adjusted the exposure to help make it more visible.
There was a fire hydrant and there was some weird like electrical box thing
around a fire hydrant, probably about 5 or so feet from what I saw would be the street.
I remember kind of seeing a fire hydrant.
The red arrow points to the fire hydrant, and the blue arrow points to the electrical box that Carrie Roberts spoke of. The red arrow represents where John O'Keefe was found. The blue arrow is pointing to marks in the snow where he was loaded onto a backboard. Above the red line, you can see foot tracks leading to where they loaded Officer John O'Keefe onto the backboard. To give the Commonwealth the benefit of a possible unintentional error, I can see the possibility of thinking Officer John O'Keefe was by the flagpole if they misinterpreted the perspective in this frame of the video. I have drawn a fire hydrant in the location it would be if Officer John O'Keefe was by the flagpole. The green line represents the lawn mulch line. The blue line represents the curb. The next two clips are going to be short clips from Lieutenant Gallagher of the Canton Police Department. And what I find interesting about these two clips, he's describing two photographs. And in previous instances, the judge has not allowed narration of video or photographs. In these two cases, Lieutenant Gallagher simply narrates them. And I find it interesting because these photographs are of the location of John O'Keefe. And it appears that in the first photograph, he is laser pointing to the fire hydrant in that area. I've got that blown up so you may be able to see the laser point dancing around. And that is as if he's trying to say that that's where John O'Keefe was found, which is fine with me. But then he appears to dance it over by the flagpole and say it there. So I'm not clear, but he says the incident occurred and he's around the fire hydrant, which would be correct. And then he goes on to talk about the wind for some reason. But it's interesting to me because of the argument the prosecutor had with Katie McLaughlin about the previous photograph without the fire hydrant in it, and how she was arguing that he was found near the fire hydrant. And it's interesting to me that the prosecutor didn't get involved in that discussion. And then he goes on to look at the next photo and just narrate again. And he contradicts himself because it's a photo looking up at the flagpole, basically straight on, not quite, it's a little bit of an angle, but it has a few bushes and it omits the fire hydrant, and it's where the blood and the glass were found. So it's clearly, this is an indication of two different locations. That's what I want to get you out of this, that the blood and the glass were found by the flagpole and that John O'Keefe was located by the fire hydrant. So those are the next two clips.
Shot of the scene. Mr. O'Keefe was found in this area here, and this is the long look to where Mr. O'Keefe was discovered.
As documented in this video, Officer John O'Keefe was located near the fire hydrant. These photos of the blood and glass are approximately 30 feet from the fire hydrant. You can see if Officer John O'Keefe was walking in the dark in the direction of the arrows, he could easily have fallen on his face. And now to my theory. Karen Reed pulls up somewhere in this location. Remember, there's a vehicle parked by the mailbox. She goes around the mailbox, She pulls ahead, stops her vehicle. John O'Keefe gets out, walks up the driveway, up the road, down the driveway, vomits on himself, clearly has no interest in going into the house with vomit all over himself. Karen Reed watches him walk up to here and she pulls off. He needs a place to sit. He's feeling sick. He has a blood alcohol of 0.28. And he decides to go down to the fire hydrant, which he saw when they pulled up. He needed a place to sit down. He didn't want to be humiliated in front of all these guests. So he doesn't go back to the road. There's some light on the front lawn due to all the windows. So he heads across the lawn. He gets to the flagpole. There's uneven ground here. He doesn't notice it. He trips and falls on his face, smashing his nose in over his eye. The healthcare data, the health app notes a 6-minute no motion for his phone for 6 minutes. He gets up. He takes 36 steps. Now remember, these steps are now different because he's now fallen on his face. He's feeling extremely bad. So now he takes 36 choppy steps down to the fire hydrant, gets his phone out to call Karen Reed to come pick him up, falls over, catches his arm on the flag, hits his head on the fire hydrant. At the same time, his phone falls out of his hand and he lands on top of his phone. And what's interesting to me is I thought I would test my theory. So I thought, I'm going to measure how many feet 80 steps are. So I got my trusty tape measure out. I went outside and I counted off 80 steps. And it came to 200 feet. I was like, okay, so now let's go to Google Maps and see if my theory is correct. So I started here using Google Maps. I measured up, in, out, and down. In 82, this corner was 212 feet. That is no coincidence. So parking, walking up, in, out a little, and down, 212 feet. Now, it's very hard to judge these 36 steps because they would be choppy steps. So that's my theory. The health data, the steps data back up my theory. The distance of the 80 steps fits my theory perfectly. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.